Hey all, before we start today's show, I want to get real with you with a message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. Your draft, it's here. You're going to have time with your friends. You're going to have fun with your friends. Well, let's remember to be smart this season. Remember that your reaction time slows way down when you are driving drunk or driving high. Do not kid yourself. If you feel different, you drive different. Learn more at nhtsa.gov. And remember, drive high, you get a DUI.
Hey, it's Courtland Sutton, wide receiver for the Denver Broncos, and you're listening to the Fantasy Footballers.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast, coming to you from Draft.com Studios with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Breakout time.
Whew! Doppler effect. Feel like we went around the world.
I'm excited.
Should be.
Fresh off the My Guys episode. Booty scooting Cam Newton on all your teams now, I'm sure.
He's scooting onto some starting rosters.
Well, we're going to talk briefly about him and Christian McCaffrey in the news today, so hang tight for that. I got questions for both of you about the Panthers offense. We've also got a great quick question. Had a legend sign a contract, and today we're talking about breakouts. We're each bringing a couple breakout names forward for your consideration. Some guys we think have the opportunity to go from fantasy irrelevance to relevance.
Or just take that next step.
Or take the next step, exactly. Find us on Twitter at the FF Ballers. On YouTube, we are over there. You can watch the show. You can watch the very entertaining My Guys drop from yesterday on the show. I believe that was CGI.
No, we filmed that.
Okay.
We can do strange things with our bodies.
That's youtube.com/thefantasyfootballers. The giveaway is footclangiveaway.com. The signed DeAndre Hopkins jersey right now. A couple copies of Madden, the UDK for life. And if you don't have the Ultimate Draft Kit, by the way, if you already have it and you win this contest, we'll refund your money, and then we'll give you a UDK for every year that you live.
For life.
And then you bequeath it to your next of kin. And you can check out the Ultimate Draft Kit, everything that's involved, updated every single day at ultimatedraftkit.com. One of the things I wanted to highlight today was the risk ratings. All of our projections and rankings, the tiered rankings inside the UDK, include our risk rating, and that is a consensus assessment of risk for each and every player. When you build a fantasy team, your objective is to both give yourself upside and mitigate risk so that you have staying power to win your league, and that is one of the tools that we give you in the Ultimate Draft Kit to help you assess risk. A lot of things go into that: injury, changes, consistency over time, what we expect from the depth chart, a lot of different things.
Yeah, I mean, I say this every year. I think it helps, especially the new listeners who have not yet won a championship. You do not win your championship at your draft. You build a foundation to make the moves in season, and part of a good foundation is mitigating the risk. So I think that's worthy of pointing up. And also, if you were looking at today's episode, we got our breakouts here. We have our breakouts in the Ultimate Draft Kit. Of course, our breakouts, our busts, our sleepers, our values. Today, we're going to talk about the guys that we individually really believe in that might have a breakout versus the consensus guys in the UDK that we kind of more expect to have a breakout.
It's a great point, Jason.
Oh, thanks.
Quick question of the day. Adrian Peterson, welcome back. He's been signed by the Washington Redskins. And so I'm calling this quick question our Yo Adrian.
Yo!
Segment.
Yo, Adrian. Hey, yo!
He's been signed by the Redskins. They're depleted by way of running back. Darius Geis injured, Byron Marshall, Samaje Perine banged up. So they signed the elder statesman Adrian Peterson. Last year played for the Saints and Cardinals. So I want to know, guys, how deep you believe you have to go before you draft Adrian Peterson. So I'm going to start here.
Ooh.
Adrian Peterson in 2018 or Corey Clement?
Oh, Corey Clement.
Corey Clement.
Corey Clementine. He's the 46th running back off the board right now, and you're taking Clement over Peterson.
Yes.
Gio Bernard.
I would take Adrian Peterson over Gio Bernard.
I would take Gio Bernard.
Okay. Bernard's the 47th running back off the board right now. What about Mr. Jordan Wilkins? Played last night, running back, rookie for the Indianapolis Colts, or Adrian Peterson?
That is a great question because I'm wondering how the coaching staff is going to feel about Mr. Wilkins and his goal line fumble yesterday. Fumbling in that region. Apparently they haven't cared about Nyheim Hines. He's got the itis.
I believe Wilkins had a couple of receptions yesterday.
Sure, but my point is when a rookie fumbles with a goal line opportunity,
sure,
that's not a good look. I would that one I have to see. I got to wait for preseason week 3 to see how things shake out.
I would probably take Wilkins right now. Like because you might not get to wait.
Right. Yeah, if I'm drafting today, I guess I'm taking Wilkins.
I would go Wilkins as well. I'd rather have the upside of a guy that may be he has the chance to turn into one of those weekly starters. I think Adrian Peterson will have some weeks of relevance, but I don't think he's going to be a weekly starter for the whole year.
C.J. Anderson or Adrian Peterson?
Anderson's
the 42nd off the board right now. James White or Adrian Peterson?
James White.
In a standard league?
James White.
In a standard league, I would probably go Adrian Peterson.
Here's the thing for Adrian Peterson. It's a strange – that's the wrong way. It's an interesting signing for Washington to go with him, especially over someone like Orleans Darkwa. You have Rob Kelly and Samaje Perine. Perine is, of course, dealing with the ankle injury. Rob Kelly, by all accounts right now, is still the starter. Are they going to say, okay, an Adrian Peterson off the street is now good enough to be our starting running back? When coming into last year, they were more than comfortable having Rob Kelly as their starting running back. He possibly could have been their starter this year until Darius Geis were to supplant him. Adrian Peterson has some juice left, but if you watch him play football, he's not even close to the same player. There's a lot of wear on Adrian Peterson. He is a first-ballot Hall of Fame running back, but that's based off of his body of work from years past, not in anything recent. They gave him a very, very small contract. It's just over $1 million. Nothing is guaranteed, meaning there's no guarantee that if the Washington running backs return to health, there's no guarantee that Peterson makes this roster.
Yeah, and there's certainly no I project
you
Peterson
believe he will
to make the roster and to be the starter. That's what but it is worth saying that there is no guarantee he's going to be the starter. No promises made. Adrian Peterson is, I believe, somewhere around 37 yards away from overtaking Jim Brown on the all-time list. So it's one of those situations where he might not need to say, hey, I want to prove myself that I can I can lead the league in yards. He might be going, I just want to crack that top 10 and get ahead of Jim Brown.
Last year was, by metric standards, I mean, he had a couple of games where he helped you in fantasy because he was, 159 yards rushing, 130 yards rushing. And everything else looked pretty bad, metric-wise. I mean, second worst in the league in yards per carry, fourth worst in terms of stuffed on plays up the middle. It was mostly negative marks for Adrian Peterson last year.
The thing
he did not play behind a good offensive line in Arizona, and he was forced into high workloads, which would naturally depreciate that yards per carry a little bit, and then the injury to end the year. He got injured and didn't play after his 159-yard game.
Not only that, but if you remember when after one of those huge monster games, and Adrian Peterson was the new hotness, and I tried to throw a bucket of cold water on him that week, said don't play him, because at that age he was going from a Monday night football game to a Thursday night football game. He did not have the rest. So a lot of his numbers were just trashed by that game where he was not ready.
News and notes from around the league.
Well, we have some news on Titans wide receiver Rashaad Matthews, but it's not
very strange news.
It's not the kind of news we expected. We've been wanting an injury update as to why he hasn't been participating in both camp and now 2 preseason games. But the news this morning is that Rashaad Matthews, who was the leading receiver for the Titans last season, he's agreed to a 1-year extension through 2019. He negotiated it himself. He fired his agent. and negotiated this deal. Has a base value of $7.75 million for the 2019 season and exactly $0 guaranteed dollars.
And it is a team option.
Yes.
Meaning that the team will say, yes or no, you're going to get this contract.
Well, and we'll talk more about the Titans' offense and wide receivers on today's show. So
it'll be interesting if it, in fact, turns out that Rashaad Matthews' absence from training camp was a holdout. I mean, we don't have the update yet. Well, if Rashaad Matthews is magically back today or tomorrow, you have to assume he was holding out. And
well, it's one of those things where you can't be on the field practicing and in your agent suit in the office, so he can't do the like switch hat thing.
Yeah, you do slow down.
Yeah,
it's hard to run routes.
Have you ever seen anybody in a suit with pads?
Oh,
man.
The suit and pads. The
I
combo.
have.
You have?
The Rock. You never seen Ballers? He basically looks like a man wearing
it
pads.
does. Underneath the suit, he's gotta have
he's just
pads.
got the pads on. All right, the Jets running back Isaiah Crowell has cleared the league's concussion protocol. He's back in practice. We'll see. The expectations for Isaiah Crowell are all over the map. He should have every opportunity to be the guy in New York. And I do think that they're the second best team in a weak division. Or I guess you could say, I mean, you kind of just throw the Patriots out and there's three people competing for second place.
Sure.
The Saints have released running back Terrence West, which begs the question for me. I don't think anybody had West on the roster. Maybe some people had him in Dynasty leagues. But Jonathan Williams actually looked pretty good.
And not only that, but Jonathan Williams he's at this point a must-own in Dynasty leagues because you've got a guy who is talented on an offense and on a team that always produces 4 running backs. He's got that first 4-week opportunity, and then 29-year-old Mark Ingram is going to be a free agent. I don't expect them to re-sign him at the end of this year. That's when he'd be 29. Jonathan Williams could have a future for the Saints, so it's definitely worth monitoring. I don't know that I would necessarily draft him, but he could be a startable asset those first 4 weeks of the season too.
Agreed.
All right, we are going to get into the breakouts, but this last piece of news I think is really important to discuss. Yesterday, Jason was proclaiming the great praises of CMC, of Christian McCaffrey, the opportunity he's going to have to run between the tackles, his opportunity to improve on what he did between the tackles last year in Carolina. Yet today, we find out that left tackle Matt Khalil has had a knee scope that came from the recommendation of Dr. James Andrews. They've already lost their right tackle. They've lost all-pro guard Andrew Norwell. The offensive line is in shambles in Carolina. Now, of all the players, of all the quarterbacks that doesn't necessarily lead to negative fantasy production, Russell Wilson, for example, Cam Newton, I think, falls into that category of, look, you got to scramble, you got to get out of the pocket. That doesn't necessarily hurt his fantasy value. It can hurt the fantasy value of CMC. So do you have concern? Do you want to pull back on any of your hype for Christian McCaffrey?
Yes. Yes and no. I don't pull back on the hype of utilization. No. I think the utilization is really what I was hyping. I believe he will be the predominant runner, the predominant pass catcher. He'll be a 3-down back utilized a lot. But it is worth noting just because he had a great 70-yard run in preseason does not mean he's going to be more efficient than he was last year with a worse offensive line. So he still very well will be inefficient through the tackles due to the downgraded offensive line. But, I mean, he was a running back 12. He was a running back 1 last season due to his pass catching, and that's not going away, and his carry volume will increase. So even if he's inefficient, he should have a better season this year than last year.
Mike, I'm going to ask you this question now. Matt Khalil, the prognosis is week to week after an arthroscopic procedure.
If I was Matt Khalil playing the way that Matt Khalil had been playing, I might get a surgery too. And just be like, guys,
put him on.
Get bodied.
Put him on blast.
I was getting I gave you everything I had, but the old knee, it's a little rickety. Better go get it checked out.
Yeah, I mean, many kind of thought he was a liability as is.
Which speaks to the Panthers. If he was the best option at left tackle, there's a problem.
So I guess in that respect, it's more so We already knew Norwell wasn't going to be there.
Right.
That was all baked in. All right, let's get into breakouts.
Breakouts.
Mike, we're going to let you kick it off.
Oh,
Yeah?
whoa.
I hadn't even looked at these names yet.
Well.
I think it was a little bit of destiny the way I opened the show, Mike. Maybe you start there.
Oh, wow. I thought you saw my name, so you played the intro.
No, I was complete luck.
Courtland Sutton, Denver Broncos wide receiver. He is a rookie this year, so we don't have past NFL experience to go off of, but I want to bring his name up as a man who will be fantasy relevant this year. He's essentially going on undrafted on Fantasy Football Calculator. He's a mountain of a man, 6'3", almost 220, incredible agility. He's fast for how large he is. What you can't ignore about Courtland Sutton is the drum beat. This is what you have to be paying attention to in preseason. Are they getting hyped at the beginning? Well, yeah, because he was an early round draft pick at the wide receiver position, and he was one of the best wide receivers being touted. Everything lined up. Okay, we're checking off some boxes. Making plays in training camp. Okay, we're getting those Twitter highlights of him scoring incredible touchdowns. Fantastic. Then it just keeps going. The hype keeps growing. Courtland Sutton is making plays in preseason. That's what I am paying attention to. Last year, 65% of the time, from according to Sharp Football, the Denver Broncos ran an 11 personnel, meaning 3 wide receivers were on the field. That's a little bit more than the middle of the pack. They're going to be running 3 wide, and they're saying Emmanuel Sanders is going to go into the slot. Courtland Sutton was an absolute touchdown machine in college. Double-digit touchdowns each of his past 2 seasons, 10, then 12. Not to mention, really his first year, he had 9 touchdowns. He is a dominant wide receiver. I'm not calling for him to supplant Sanders or Demaryius Thomas. What I am saying is he's going undrafted, and he could be hitting you wide receiver 3 numbers by the end of the season.
Courtland Sutton or Keelan Cole?
Keelan Cole, because I believe that he has an opportunity to emerge as the guy for Jacksonville.
There is a world, and I am all in on Courtland Sutton with you. There's a world where he is the best receiver on this team today.
The upside is built in. Like I said, you can't project that a rookie is going to come in and steal away the position of Demaryius Thomas, who's just a perennial 1,000-yard receiver who has shown that he's elite, but he's also shown he's losing a little bit. Demaryius Thomas he's getting
new quarterback, Case Keenum, no pre-established rapport with anybody. Sutton will have an opportunity. I agree with that. I like that breakout pick.
Yeah, he was my number 1 wide receiver coming into the NFL draft. I was so sad when the Denver Broncos took him.
I thought he was going to go to Dallas. I thought that's where he'd end up.
Yeah, he was. I think that was like the...
That way he could be overthrown.
Get bodied, Dak.
Get better, Dak.
Seriously.
Come on.
Seriously.
We want what's best for you.
And is being a better,
it's
more accurate passer.
Completions.
Yeah, all right. Am I up here?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to go with a guy that was almost my guy. I really love the talent of this player. I did when he was in college. I did when he got drafted. I've beat the drum on Kenyan Drake for a long time.
So many drums on this show today.
Yeah, I got a 10-piece kit over here.
What are you, Neil Peart over there?
I guess so.
There's no chance he knows that name.
I actually do know that one. So here's the deal with Kenyan Drake. Kenyan Drake is a player that on the field, on film, is fantastic. I don't know how anybody could disagree with that. He catches the ball well. He's decent in pass protection. He's faster to the edge than most players. If you just watch this preseason, he's had a couple of plays. Like his go-to move now is try to get tackled behind the line of scrimmage, avoid that, break loose and run for 35 yards. Like that's his
signature move.
Exactly. Last year,
feign death behind the line.
Exactly.
Death.
We call him the Possum.
Was this a World of Warcraft character?
Kenyan Drake the Possum.
Kenyan Drake the Possum. He led the league in yards after contact per carry last season. He is a quality player. The red flags, the flags that you worry about that stopped me from making him a my guy is simply, will he be given the opportunity? Because if you look at, he was drafted, he wasn't really given the opportunity, but he was behind Jay Ajayi. They shipped Jay Ajayi out. Now, part of that is the fact that they thought they could. They had Drake there, but then after that, when Drake was clearly the best running back on their roster, they still gave Damian Williams the ball ahead of him, which made no sense. It took an injury to Damian Williams for Kenyan Drake to take over. But once he did, those final 5 weeks of the season, he was the 8th best running back in half-point PPR. He was awesome, electric, and now coming into this season, some of the things that have been said by Adam Gase, the fact that, I don't know if you guys are aware, there was a fight in Miami this last week in their camp. Someone sucker punched Kenyan Drake, and it was this big to-do, and that guy got cut. He gone, and there was a sit-down between Adam Gase and Kenyan Drake, and Adam Gase came and told the reporters, he's like, look, I need Drake on the field. I can't call plays the same way without Drake there. And who does Drake have to beat? Yes, Frank Gore's coming in, and he's going to get the ball.
He is infinite.
And
he is Gore.
Look, I don't want to speak for you two. I was thinking about this earlier. I wanted to say that we all agree, but I don't know that we do. I will speak only for myself. I still believe that Frank Gore is a human being. Weigh in on that.
A human being?
I believe that he is actually human.
You're saying like he has not become a god.
He's
still a mortal
not
man.
An alien come to Earth to be a football player. Like that is, and if that's true, he's 35 years old. That's all he's got to beat. He's got to beat a 35-year-old Frank Gore and Kalen Ballage, who I don't believe is a real threat. He's a weapon, but Kenyan Drake is great. And if you look, there's a guy who does great work out there, Joe Holka. Follow him on Twitter at Joe Holka, like polka. He creates the rushing expectation. It's very similar to
like polka, not possum. Polka.
Right. It's very similar to Matt Harmon. Matt Harmon
Right.
does reception perception for wide receivers, so you could see how are they regardless of quarterback play. Just are they good at running routes, getting open, catching the ball. He does this for running backs, and it's basically offensive line agnostic. How good are they despite their offensive line or in spite of their offensive line? He rated his rushing expectation. Kenyan Drake was the second best running back according to his metrics last season, regardless of offensive line. And Pro Football Focus has their offensive line improving this year 9 spots better over their rank from last year. So I believe if Kenyan Drake gets the ball 200 times on the ground, he will be a running back one. I think the breakout is there for Kenyan Drake.
The hard part about Kenyan Drake is the argument all offseason, coming from me, has just been, will he see the opportunity? It's not against the talent of Kenyan Drake, because I think that if they commit to him, he's going to be dominant for fantasy. And you are right that in the fourth round, like Derrick Henry's going in front of Kenyan Drake. I think that's just a huge mistake because he can turn into a league-winning running back if he's given the workload. But and
he's a great pass catcher. I mean, Jerick McKinnon's going 2 rounds earlier, and they have the same upside.
Right.
But McKinnon's opportunity is a little
Hey,
simpler.
he's got to stay healthy, too.
Yes, that is always been
preseason
enough.
last year, hamstring injuries. Week 11 last year, knee strain showed
College
up on the injury
as well.
report and in college. So there are some things he has to overcome, but the talent is there. Mike?
Hey.
Oh, it's my turn, though, isn't it?
Yeah, before you take your turn, my good sir, I would like to thank today's sponsor, SeatGeek. It's the easiest way to get tickets for any event that you are going to. They search multiple ticket sites, and they grade every ticket based on value. SeatGeek helps you immediately identify the best seats that fit your budget, and every SeatGeek purchase is fully guaranteed. You can shop at SeatGeek and with full confidence, which, let's be honest, confidence is king. And if I can buy a ticket and I know that this thing is guaranteed, I'm not going to have any concerns. We all use SeatGeek. We all have the app. It's incredibly easy to use. Sometimes I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it to a football game. I got to book this last minute. Boom. SeatGeek. I'm getting good deals on tickets, and they're making it incredibly easy. Right now, all of our listeners can get $20 off their first SeatGeek purchase. Just download the SeatGeek app. You enter the promo code FOOTBALLERS today. That's promo code FOOTBALLERS. You're going to get $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase. SeatGeek, life's an event. We have the tickets.
Yeah. And, hey, Foot Clan, let me just ask you a little question. Do you shop? Do you purchase things?
From time to time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you like to save money?
Sure.
Me too. Let me tell you about Honey. Honey is literally this is the most no-brainer ad read. I don't even need to tell you much other than this. Here's what you do. Shop online. Install this plugin on your browser, Honey. I've used it for years. I've used it forever. And now 9 million people are using it. And they basically automatically, when you go to check out wherever you're checking out, they just basically look and say, hey, I found a coupon that saves you money. Click, click. Oh, I saved $5. I mean, I've got it on my extension browser on Chrome, and when I'm just shopping on Amazon, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, hey, I saved you $2. Thanks.
Cool. Thanks,
so,
Honey.
Look, there's no reason not to add Honey to your browser right now. It's free. It takes 2 clicks to install. Save you tons of money. Get Honey for free at joinhoney.com/footballers. That's 2 words, joinhoney.com/footballers. Start saving money with Honey today. Joinhoney.com/footballers.
All right. I'm going to do a little combo here with my breakout picks. I'm going to work in a name that I've talked a lot about this offseason, Corey Davis, but I'm also going to work in Taywan Taylor.
Ooh, you sure you want to do this?
Yeah, I do, because Taywan's an undrafted wideout. And let's start with Corey Davis. I've talked a lot about him this offseason. I think he's got a great opportunity. You know the metrics. He's 6'3", 209. He torched Malcolm Butler in the playoffs last year. Finally showed a little bit of the ability that we didn't get to see during this season that was marred by the hamstring injury and various injuries. But he was the number 5 pick in the NFL draft. Marcus Mariota needs Corey Davis to be able to ascend this year. And I talked a lot last year about there were wide receivers in fantasy that went from irrelevance to relevance last year, from very low fantasy finishes. Devin Funchess went from 86 to 21. Robbie Anderson went from 68 to 16. Stephon Diggs went from 38 to 19. Corey Davis is just primed and ready for a jump. This is his opportunity this year. Now, some things are dependent on, look, is Rashard Matthews healthy? Will he be back on the field? But Corey Davis has had the time this offseason, and the health needs to be there. But I like Corey Davis as a breakout candidate. And with that, I want to bring up Taywan Taylor, a name that Jason's brought up multiple times this offseason, a player that had 2 touchdowns and flashed in the last preseason game. But let's remember some things about Taywan Taylor. Number 1, this is a 3rd-round draft pick. Number 2, the playerprofiler.com comp on Taywan Taylor and his metrics, specifically his very high percentile agility, is Doug Baldwin. That's the kind of player that he's comped to on Player Profiler. When you watch the game, preseason week 2 specifically, he looked a lot like Deshaun Jackson. The speed.
Yeah, he hit the turbo jets.
Yeah, he wasn't a player who in the combine put up a 4.34 type of number. But on the field, his game speed, he caught the eye of LeBron James with that run.
Oh, did you get a
Got
tweet?
a little Taywan Taylor tweet from LeBron.
I'm still waiting for
it.
mine.
It was an electric performance.
Come on, LeBron. I know you're listening.
He's verified now.
And here's something interesting about Taywan. As a rookie, he played basically in the slot the entire year. 144 of his 246 offensive snaps were in the slot. Now he's in camp. He's been playing outside a lot, and we don't know when Rashard Matthews is going to come back again. It's dependent on that. But Taywan Taylor's going to have an opportunity on an offense that didn't get to run a lot of offensive plays last year, whose game plan was stuck in the Stone Age,
Well, you have
now moves forward under Matt LaFleur.
touchdown positive regression is going to happen for the Tennessee Titans. I'll just repeat it of Marcus Mariota. His first 2 years, he would average a touchdown on about every 18 attempts or so, and last year it plummeted to 34. Every 34 attempts, he'd throw a touchdown. It's bumping back up.
He should do it more. He should do it more often.
And not only that, but one of the reasons I had Taywan Taylor highly projected early this offseason because what you brought up, Matt LaFleur, he's coming from, this last season, the Los Angeles Rams system that always had 3 wide receivers and spread it around, schemed it to them. Think about, you had value in Sammy Watkins, you had value in Cooper Kupp, you had value in Robert Woods. That's kind of one of those things where I think the Corey Davis and Taywan Taylor, I think the offense is going to take a step forward, and Taywan will be involved.
Well, you inspired me by going double Bears yesterday on the My Guys show. So, also, this just in, Taywan Taylor's mom actually calls him Taywan Taylor.
Oh
no, another one.
Get out of here.
That's not actually true.
Boo!
Come on.
Boo!
That's not true. That's not true.
Boo! We don't need a
Taywan the tool man.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Boo!
Boo! All right.
Boo!
Let's move it
Very
along.
high volume boos, Mike.
If I could do them louder, I would.
What's the next breakout candidate that you want to bring forth?
All right, I'm going to bring him up.
Never heard of him.
Amari Cooper. This is the year. Thank you. This is the year for Amari Cooper. He's going as the wide receiver 16 in draft. People they aren't sure what to do with him, and I wanted to just bring up a couple wide receivers of note the past 2 years that John Gruden was a head coach. 2008, Antonio Bryant, 138 targets, 83 for 1,248 yards and 7 touchdowns. 2007, Joey Galloway in 15 games, almost 100 targets, 57 receptions, over 1,000 yards, and 6 touchdowns. So wide receivers in John Gruden's system, they can thrive. Amari Cooper, we've seen the talent. We've seen it flash. Last year he had the second highest scoring wide receiver game of the year. And here's a quote from Derek Carr talking about Amari Cooper last year. Quote, "He will never tell you, and he'll never even talk about it, but the man was out there playing on one foot." That's what Carr said earlier in the offseason about Amari Cooper, and you could see it. You could see a change in the way that Amari Cooper played. It's to go from that high, the second highest scoring wide receiver game in fantasy of the year, to just absolutely vanishing and being able to get nothing done. This was exactly the example of when a guy plays through injury, but he really shouldn't be. He should be letting it rest. That's what Amari Cooper. He made a mistake this last year. But I believe that as the number one in the system, Amari Cooper can thrive. Michael Crabtree is gone. Michael Crabtree was the absolute go-to red zone weapon for Derek Carr. Shift those over to Amari Cooper. Just shift some of those over to Amari Cooper, and you're talking about a wide receiver one who has top 5 upside with his skill set and his newfound opportunity as the one on the team.
Yeah, I can buy that. My look, I'm happy to have this opportunity because early, if you're new to the fantasy footballers, maybe you haven't heard my love affair with this player, and I haven't had the opportunity to talk about him because
Please be Kobe Fleener. Please be Kobe Fleener. Please be Kobe Fleener.
Things have been going wrong for him, but I am absolutely still 100% believer that he will break out this season. It is Rashaad Penny, rookie running back for the Seattle Seahawks. And I finally, now that we're coming up to the main weekend of drafts, I'm actually going to be able to get him. When he was a third rounder, I was saying there's no way I'm drafting Rashaad Penny. I know the talent. I think he can be a true 3-down back. I believe he is an elite talent. So did the Seahawks. They drafted him in the first round, which is a huge – look, draft capital matters for running backs. There's no way you can look at, if you break down the history statistically over the last, 20 years in the NFL, draft capital at the running back position for first rounders means they get the opportunity. They always get the opportunity unless they have their career cut short with some catastrophic injury. If he gets the opportunity, he's going to succeed. And right now what's happened is Chris Carson was made the starter. He was the starter in camp, and then Rashaad Penny got injured, where he's going to miss the rest of the preseason. He's going to continue to drop in drafts. And if you look at Fantasy Football Calculator and you look at the average draft position of him and of Chris Carson, they're basically making an X. Chris Carson will be drafted this weekend ahead of Rashaad Penny, which makes sense. He's the current starter. But Chris Carson is not as talented as Rashaad Penny. You say, oh, he's looked good in preseason. Yeah, he's had a couple good runs. How about that goal line fumble that you were just talking about with
Right.
Jordan Wilkins? He had a goal line fumble. Those things matter. He hasn't just
That's
been good.
It's a glumble.
Right. So
New stat, registered trademark.
as the season
Hands
goes
off.
on, the reason I want to bring up Rashaad Penny is because he's going to be a late round draft pick. He's going to be in the 8th round, the 9th round. There are very few guys you can get there who could become a 300-plus touch first-round draft capital pick who can catch the ball, who can run in every direction. And another thing to bring up, look, Chris Carson.
300?
Oh, absolutely, a 300.
This year?
This season, he could be a 300 touchback.
I don't believe it.
Here's another thing that will help that happen. You guys have
I'm
watched Chris.
kidnapping Chris Carson this afternoon.
I
It's a
don't
Celtic
need-
pride
I-
situation.
I don't
Yes.
need to kidnap Chris Carson. Have you guys seen the way Chris Carson runs the ball? I mean, he runs.
It's a ferocious.
He runs like he is trying.
It reminds me of Thomas Rawls.
Yes,
Rawls ran that way.
They both ran the exact same way. How did Rawls hold up
He's in the shop.
with that running style? I mean, that running style will not stay healthy.
I'm not going to bank on an injury to
I'm
Chris
not
Carson to
banking
get
on an
me to
injury,
that.
but I do look. It happened last year, and
So
he
it'll
doesn't-
happen again.
If he doesn't get injured this season, Rashaad Penny will absolutely take over the role this season.
300 is the only thing that threw me. I don't think 300 is in the cards for Rashaad
Yeah,
Penny.
even I was very bullish of.
Even if you took Carson out of the equation right now, I don't know if 300 is in the cards for Rashaad Penny.
The Seattle Seahawks have revamped their team, their coaching staff, and everything to run the ball. That's what they want to do. Whether you believe it's Chris Carson, look, either one of them, somebody should have a breakout because they are going to run the ball left, right, center. Stupidly, they're going to run the ball more than they should, but for fantasy, we need to be aware of that. That's what their offensive coordinator wants to do. They don't want to, just put it in the hands of their, Pro Bowl quarterback for some reason.
Yeah, get away from there.
And Rashaad Penny in college was fantastic. He was my second favorite prospect behind Saquon Barkley coming out. Drafted in the first round. He had 2,248 yards and 23 touchdowns in college and is a very capable receiver. He looked good in his first preseason game, had a great pass block that left Russell Wilson able to throw a touchdown. And I believe in the breakout of Rashaad Penny. And next season, you're going to be drafting Rashaad Penny in the top 3 rounds. That's my full belief.
I think somebody asked the question of if you could see the future and know the ADP of a player next year, who would it be? Who would you want to know? Like, who? I guess the way I'm saying it is, if you could see the ADP for next year, what knowledge would that give you? Like, what player would you want that knowledge on more than anybody else?
You know what's funny is I wanted this to be a quick question. My player was Kenyan Drake. That was who I wanted, but Rashaad Penny would be the next guy up. My 2 breakouts, because I believe in the talent. I believe as well that they will get the opportunity, but they are risky. These 2 players in the Ultimate Draft Kit, I've got them statted out very well. I think they're going to have great seasons, but they do have a higher risk rating for sure.
All right, we're going to answer some Foot Clan questions after I drop the final breakout here on the show. This would be a guy I'd love to know his ADP next year, and it's Patrick Mahomes, quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs. Bounced the ball off the moon this past week, completing a 69-yard touchdown pass with 63 yards in the air to Tyreek Hill, who Tyreek Hill looked like he was on like the playground because there were 3 Falcons behind him, all running after him like a game of tag, and he had about 4 or 5 yards in between him. But here's how many quarterbacks have completed a pass with at least 63 air yards since 2009. Aaron Rodgers. That was it.
And
No, that's it.
Oh, Patrick Mahomes.
And it took him all of 2 preseason games to go out there. Look, and we know that narrative. Like, having silly arm strength does not make you a fantasy superstar. But we're bringing up opportunities to break out. And what I actually liked seeing was the entirety of his performance. It was a much better game than week 1. He identified Travis Kelce, lined up outside in one-on-one, dropped a dime in to the outside to Travis Kelce, utilized him. He has weapons with Hunt and Hill and Watkins and Kelce. So I think it's the assortment of weapons mixed with the arm strength. You mix in Andy Reid and the freedom that he's going to give his young quarterback to come in and do what it takes to win. It's a defense that I think at a minimum is about the same, maybe a step back, and there's going to be some shootout opportunities for Pat Mahomes to win you a week. And when Pat Mahomes goes off this year, it's going to be the type of performance that finishes in the top 3 in fantasy. It's not going to be 10-11, I think. So breakout candidate, he's a QB 16 right now in drafts.
I love Patrick Mahomes as a breakout. You want to draft him as your guy week 1. Now, keep in mind he does have
schedule,
a
Jason.
He's got a rough
early.
Jason,
what about the schedule?
He's got a rough
you
early.
You always
season.
talk about the schedule, Jason.
It's a very angry vote.
Because I'm confused.
No, I love the breakout on the season. I would be fine drafting him and say, hey, maybe he'll just beat those bad defenses. But it is worth noting he has a rough early schedule. But the thing that really puts Mahomes over the top for me, not only does he have Andy Reid, a great system, a great arm, but it's his legs. You realize that the last 2 seasons in college, he had over 700 rushing yards and 22 rushing touchdowns.
You're saying he can do some booty scooting?
Yeah, I mean, you got your Cam, you got your Mahomes. The rushing quarterbacks in fantasy, they're an unfair advantage. Take advantage.
Well, I mean, if you don't buy into my Tyrod Taylor take, if you don't believe in Taylor, Mahomes is in the category of guys that you can just take. Like, if you want to take a guy,
Mahomes is not getting
flyer,
benched for sure.
Yeah, well, sure. And if you want to take a flyer with your last pick in a draft, he's another guy you can consider with a breakout opportunity. I think he's going to have growing pains. He's going to have some tough weeks, but if he has the rushing yardage to set a floor for him, if he does have even a baseline that is at or above what Alex Smith was doing running the ball in Kansas City, that's going to help. You'll survive those weeks a little bit better. All right, let's get into the mailbag.
Mailbag.
Mailbag! Yow!
All right, if you have a question for this podcast, we let you – was that a fish? Was that like a little fish at the end of the mailbag?
Yeah.
Huh.
It's coming up for air.
Someone's out of practice over there. Go to the website, thefantasyfootballers.com. There's a submit a question button. You can send them in. We'll try to answer a few on almost every show, and you can dial our voicemail hotline, 302-464-TFFB. Here's a voicemail question.
Hey, Ballers. What's up? This is Andy from Houston. Got a question for you. I'm going to be the commissioner in my new work league, and one of the changes I am recommending to the guys is to implement dropping the kicker and adding a second flex position to replace it. What do you guys think of that change? Would you guys want to play in a league with 2 flex positions? And, would love to hear your thoughts. Thanks so much. Love the show, guys.
Well, we do. We do play in a league like that. Our dynasty league is no kicker and extra flex.
And no defense.
So Jason's just smirking because he feels like it's like a cause that's being supported.
Look,
he wants to drop kick the kicker.
I want to drop kick the kicker. Look, you put so much time and energy and research and analysis and fun. You put fun research into running backs and wide receivers and quarterbacks. And
this is just an act of will, though. You could do that with kickers.
But you don't.
But no one does.
That's true. But I remember being at our live show in New York, and when Jason had to face a Foot Clan listener who was a collegiate kicker, and he had some thoughts.
I got no problem. Get rid of him. Get rid of him. Get body.
Yeah, but you bring up the great point. Have you ever in your fantasy football career? I'm not talking about the fantasy football.
Dug in.
I'm talking not you, not just you, but have you ever heard someone say, "I got the breakout of the year"?
Well, we do have a boom boom.
It's this, but it's this kicker. He is my breakout of the year. No one has ever said that in the history of the sport.
But they change victories week in and week out because this guy missed the. It's just it's.
They're the lettuce of fantasy football.
No,
look.
Nobody ever
fine.
says, "Boy, the lettuce in this salad's the real ticket."
I am fine.
But you kind of
with
this part of the meal.
You watch what you talk about with kale.
If you are a football,
delicious.
If you're a football truther and you're like, oh, I'm never getting rid of a kicker, I'm totally cool with that. Just nerf it a little bit. Don't have these things where these kickers are getting 5 points for a field goal and
Also, he's
crazy
not totally
scoring.
cool with that.
And, no, I'm fine with you having kickers. I'm not fine with you having these kickers that are
Sure.
outscoring
What if
tight ends and running backs. It's absurd.
What if you had the kicker spot, you play a kicker every week, but they score 0 points?
That's a good idea.
There you go. You get your kicker. Are you happy?
My gosh.
I would give them a point if they didn't miss anything. Well, yeah, he didn't miss this week.
So a perfect kicker week's a point.
Yeah.
You miss anything, you get 0.
You get 0.
And so the
love it.
max points a kicker can score is 1.
But to speak to the flex position, yes, that sounds perfect. To speak to the flex position, I'm always a fan of more flex position. And if you're listening to this show, you're going to be hopefully more prepared than the average Joe. And that just gives you an advantage for the deeper your roster is. The deeper your starting roster is, the better decisions you're going to make over your opponents and get more #FootClan titles.
All right, Connor Castillo in Atlanta has a which guy question following our My Guy show. He said, hey guys, 10-team snake redraft league and I have the first pick. Would you rather have Gronk or Mixon in the 3rd round? So
Gronk.
it's the 3rd round, but it's the first pick of the 3rd round in that case, right? And you'd rather have Gronk.
Gronk.
Yeah.
If I already have 2 players,
Yeah,
heck yeah.
I'm gonna
Give
say-
me Gronk.
I'll take Jordan Howard right before Mixon and then grab Gronk.
Oh, Gronk.
Madman Max in Boston says after 5 games, everyone is certain that Deshaun Watson's production has to regress. With less than 4 games on tape, how convinced of Dalvin Cook are you? So he's bringing up the point that we often bring up. Look, Watson's got a small sample size. He's got unsustainable metrics.
And here's my
why is Dalvin Cook any different?
I've been asked this question quite a few times, and my response is always, you are comparing literally the hardest position in professional sports. You're talking about the quarterback versus the running back, which when it comes to football is one of the easiest transitions for a college player to make. They come in and they get opportunity and they make an impact. A quarterback has a lot to learn. So that's why it is so vastly different. This is not even close to an apples to apples. This is an apples to not even a piece of fruit. This is an apples to broccoli.
Apples to couches situation here.
Thank you.
Here's the other part of it, though. It's not just quarterback to running back. That is a completely legit point. But what Dalvin Cook did last year was on par with what he did in college and was a good top 12 running back. What Deshaun Watson did last year was on pace to be the best quarterback in the history of football that has ever been seen to break every touchdown record possibly imaginable. That's part of why we think regression is there.
And I'm going to make the point. I mean, I've said it all offseason. I do not believe Dalvin Cook's workload. I believe that that's the thing you can analyze the most from only a 4-game sample size last year. Latavius Murray was hurt. Dalvin Cook took the job and ran with it. And I don't think that is proof that he's going to get that kind of work the rest of his career.
You also have Pat Shurmur leaving, and he has a tendency to have a more dominant running back. So
Adrian Peterson or Latavius Murray?
Oh, Latavius.
I think Latavius is going to steal a bunch of touchdowns.
Yeah,
I still love Dalvin Cook. I think he is a top-tier running back.
I think he's an RB2.
An RB2, really?
I do. I think Dalvin Cook's an RB2. Yeah. All right, voicemail question.
Hey, Ballers, this is Rick from Dallas. Quick question on the Eagles situation with their quarterbacks pretty much being question marks for the beginning of the season. Do you think that affect positively or negatively affects the Eagles running back situation? All right, appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
If they're not ready to go, it's negative. I mean,
right.
It's not like, they're going to have to run the ball more. It's they're going to score fewer points. Yeah. They're going to get less yardage. They're going to have a worse game. So it's definitely a negative for the entire team if their 2 starting quarterbacks aren't ready to go. It looks like Foles should be ready to go. And while everything is trending in the right direction for Wentz, I do know I saw Pro Football Doc, who's probably my most trusted source for information. He just put out an article saying that he believes Carson Wentz will not be ready for week 1.
He's growing concerned that Carson Wentz will not be ready.
Nick Foles is going to play a half in the next preseason game, so his health is back. If I had to, I'm not a Pro Football Doc, and I think we're waiting for. If you listen to Carson Wentz yesterday, he passed the hurdle of the 11-on-11 drills, but he will openly admit he does not. Him nor Doug Peterson has final say on this. It's all going to be doctor related. It's all going to be whether they believe he can withstand, impact in week 1. Do what it needs to be done. I still lean on the side of believing he'll be there, but it's going to be down to the wire.
One of the big issues here is the timeline of recovery. From what I understand in the research I've done, is that basically week 1 is the it's got like the whatever it is, 9 to 12 month recovery. I can't remember if it's 9 to 12 or 6 to 9. But week 1 is the lower tier of that recovery timeline. The problem isn't whether or not he's going to be ready. The problem is during that 3-month period, just based on the history of this injury, there's a higher probability for re-injury. Once you're past the full recovery timeline, there shouldn't be the possibility for re-injury of those ligaments. So that's where it's like
pull
it's
a
scary.
Ryan Tannehill.
It's scary.
That's the name that came to mind. Ryan Tannehill went through that.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to say, okay, he can play. I would rather this is Carson Wentz. This is your future 10 years.
Yeah, and you won a Super Bowl with Nick Foles. You
hold him out for 3 months if you have to. Make sure he's.
Whoa, wait, hey, whoa.
I'm just saying, I would rather do that and have him for the next 7 years.
Not as a fantasy owner,
Certainly. Well, look, I traded for him in Dynasty. Start him in week 1.
All right. Well, that is it for today's episode. Thank you for tuning in, supporting the podcast. Tomorrow, we have the much anticipated annual event, the Fantasy MVP episode. We've also got busts later this week. We've got a mock draft live on the show. We'll have all the latest news, injury updates, and more. Be sure to check it out. Draft.com/ballers for your best ball needs, and ultimatedraftkit.com. Before your draft, get equipped, get right. See you later.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.